So, welcome to this next major topic of inquiry into the fantastic method of zodiacal releasing. This is actually part 2 of this ongoing investigation, so it can be addressed differently by you as a student as compared to the previous series of videos, because this is a new topic of inquiry. So please tell your astrological friends and your colleagues and other people that are interested in this material of this study, so they can hopefully become patrons, and they are all welcome, of course. So here goes. So I thought I'll just throw you all in at the deep end. So what do I mean by that? Well, of course, I take it you are all familiar with the usual proceedings of how to find a zodiacal releasing scenario in your software. And I really appreciate the good software of Planet Dance that has a really good table of zodiacal releasing. And you're also familiar with the general principles of delineating what you find in that scenario, the use of images, planets, configurations, aspects, etc. So what does that entail? So you need to be familiar with the next sort of concepts. So you need to be familiar with the sect doctrine, sorry, the specific focus periods in the zodiacal releasing scenario, and especially the periods of finding the life's work or your life's work or one's life's work, which is a special investigation, so to speak. You need to be familiar with the 12 topical places, what are called the whole sign places, which are pivots, nowadays known as angles, referential places, now often also called the succeeding places, and the places flowing forth, which have to do with cadent places in modern terminology. And then you need to know about the angular triads. And also we talked about the guest host principle. You need to be familiar with that. The porphyry places can be used for strength factors, investigating which planets are really strong, even though they are in the whole sign places located in images that seem not that strong or forceful. The meaning and the interpretations of the bound lords is a very important consideration. The Hellenistic aspect doctrine, having to do with configurations, testimony, aspects, advocacy, maltreatment, bonification, etc., all talked of in the previous series of videos on this topic. The joint domicile master doctrine, the Suno Eco Despotes, and as a patron subscribing to this specific inquiry into career counseling, you can access all the videos whenever you want where these topics are spoken of and illustrated in relation to zodiacal releasing. So you don't need 2 subscriptions, you just need one. And when you sign up for this one, Investigation into Career, then you can access all the previous videos whenever you like, and there's no restriction to that. So when you are not quite familiar with a specific topic, you can see where it is spoken of in these videos, so you can look them up there. So what will you learn in this new course? Well, let me quote Schmidt first: because the actions we are likely to undertake in some given period will be in response to the occasions for action that present themselves during the time of the perfection. And with perfection he means the moving forward of the several periods having to do with zodiacal releasing, the major periods, the minor periods, etc. He called that perfection, even though that might confuse us with the method of perfection, but that's not what he meant. It's simple, the going forward of the Time Lord procedure. That present themselves during the time of a perfection, whether these are opportunities for accomplishment or rather obstacles that the client will have to cope with. You should be able to identify these, at least in a general way. So what will you learn when it's specifically addressed at career? Then, as Schmidt said, you can see the process of sowing, growing and harvesting within given careers. That's very interesting to investigate. You'll be able to identify and see sequences of the L2 releasings that repeat under different major periods. That might be interesting because there is sort of a repetition going on of principles that have to do with zodiacal releasing and that can be found in a natal chart. A series of successive images is again addressed, activated and repeated, so to speak, but they are mostly under a different major time lot, so that might be a difference, but it's interesting to have a look at that. You should be able to alert the client to the fact that he or she may be subject to conflicting impulses in response to the occasion for action. You will learn how you can see that. You will learn to see when changes of career are most likely to occur. You will learn to see when changes of jobs within a given career or passing diversions are most likely to occur. And you will learn to see when recognition is likely to come. And these are all, of course, very important issues to be able to talk about in a consultation about somebody's career, of course. And I will present many examples to illustrate these principles to show you how to locate important periods, perhaps even critical periods in the career. So fasten your seatbelts. Okay, let me just in short repeat zodiacal releasing principles. The zodiacal releasing is the study of a patterned analogical repetitions in a life, and these should help the client to discover his or her identity, not just as something inside, but also in the world in which we live, because there the impulses come from. The incidents in the client's life should naturally fall together into events according to zodiacal releasing, and these events can be divided into episodes, and these episodes can be divided into chapters. And I've addressed it in the previous series of videos, but this will again turn up. So these things can be found by means of the principles of the pivotal triads. As you can see here, I will not say it's an invention by Schmidt, but he really addressed all the principles having to do with the systematic principle of Hellenistic astrology by trying to find the symbolism and the logic of the attributes to the 12 topical places, not by means of referring them to planets, not referring them to images, etc., but they are elements of this system. And an element is something that cannot be divided further into component parts. It's simply whenever you try to divide it, you will still come to the same principle. That's a scientific definition of what an element is. It cannot be divided further, and in Schmidt's comprehension, as far as I understood it, that means that the principles constituting, for instance, the attributing topical image, attributing topics to the 12 topical places cannot be derived from planets, cannot be derived from zodiacal images, but they are a standalone principle that's simply standing on its own feet, so to speak. And I've talked about this a lot, and this is really fantastically explained in the article that Schmidt wrote called Facets of Fate. I've talked about it a lot, and please find it on the internet because it's really a magnificent piece of work on how you can attribute the principles of the topical places by no other means than simply the principle that Schmidt discovered, having to do with the movement of the zodiac, the diurnal movements and the zodiacal movement. And it's really a fantastic intelligent piece of work. So that's interesting. I've done videos on that also. You can find them on my YouTube channel, where you can find me talking about how the 12 topical places got the symbolism, the topics that they were granted. So that's interesting. Okay, so the pivotal triads will turn up in this study as well. And also there are defining moments and turning points in the successive periods, which are very handy to know of. So the first one is finding a life work, losing of the bond, periods of defining events and turning points. We will investigate these. And all this helps to make the client's life intelligible. That is, it helps the client to see his or her life as a story that has a coherent plot line, so to speak, with interweaving subplots and intermittent climaxes, even if the client leads a fairly ordinary life. And this can also be addressed to the principle of career counseling, because there you can also use these principles to see what's going on in that field. So let's have a look at a technical career first. Now there's a specific reason why I want to look at a technical career first, and I will explain why. Let me first inform you that Schmidt was of the opinion that zodiacal releasing informs us about the incidents in the client's life, which naturally fall together into events according to zodiacal releasing. But these events can be divided into episodes and these into chapters. And these can also pertain to the native's career, even though the indication of someone's choice of profession is established with other astrological methods. So that's Schmidt's take on that. Now, I will not address these specific career methods that are rampant in astrology, but I will use zodiacal releasing to investigate whether or not we can find some information as to someone's choice of profession. So here's an example of someone who chose a technical profession. He started his education in a nautical college and specialized in machine maintenance. And after that he was at sea. After his education he was at sea for 6.5 years, and after that he worked the rest of his life in hydraulics. So that's typical, a very technical career, a very specific one also. That's also the reason why I want to investigate this chart first. So there's a very interesting quote in Valence where he introduces zodiacal releasing, and it's in book 4, chapter 4, concerning the division of the times from the lot of fortune and spirit. And what it boils down to is that the question is where, from which lot, the lot of fortune or the lot of diamond, do you start zodiacal releasing? And he makes a difference between men and women, because women, according to him, are occupied with the body specifically, which is typical something having to do with the lot of fortune, and men are normally more busy with other things having to do with spirit, etc., handling actions through speech, giving and receiving and trust, etc., which is more associated with a lot of Daimōn. But he also turns it around, because it also happens that men bring in bodily actions, such as by means of the hands or contests and bodily motion, and women bring in actions such as through buying and selling. So it is more up to the astrologer to choose which one of these is pertinent to the life of a specific person. So in this case we have somebody with a technical career, which is working with your hands mainly. Not only, but mainly. So that's the reason why I want to look at this chart first. So a technical career. So we're going to investigate this by means of the lot of Daimōn, and finding out and seeing whether or not we can sort of get hints about that this is somebody who chose a technical career. So we're going to analyze a lot of the Daimōn. So, and the first thing we're going to look at the contractor, the domicile master of his lot of Daimōn.